This week on Hooligan Nation, what happens when you mix a dash of Eddie Kramer with a pinch of Anton Fig and a knockout punch from the Spaceman? Well, you get the best of the 1978 solo albums. So stay tuned, because you got...
Nothing to lose, Curly.
Is that Mike Tyson or Ace Frehley?
You wanted the best? Well, they retired. So you got two dudes in a garage.
Talking KISS.
Welcome back to Hooligan Nation, a KISS-Centric podcast. I'm Anthony.
And I'm Rocco.
And this week, we all bring out our inner spaceman, the best guitar player that ever played in KISS. Period.
According to one
no
person.
discussion. We're not going to argue about this. Everybody is free to have their own opinions.
Right.
But anybody's opinion that differs from mine on who the greatest guitar player in the history of KISS is wrong.
Opinions vary.
But you're free to have your own opinion. Just understand that it's the wrong opinion. And before we even get started, let's get this straight. He's also got the greatest of the solo album. We saved the best for last. But before we get into that, how did you feel about Paul's solo album? And do you have anything to add?
Yeah. I had listened to it a lot back in the day, and you actually reminded me that it was my favorite of the solo albums. And I can see why. It was actually a lot of fun listening to it again. It's part of the fun of going through these albums again. And I had the most fun so far going through Paul's album. Ace's album's the best. I'm not going to deny that. I've listened to that more recently than any of the albums, but I like Paul's album a lot. It's really good. And like I said, when I was a kid, it was my favorite of the solo albums.
I really like Paul's solo album. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. I like Ace's better, but Paul's is good. There's a big giant leap from Peters to Jeans. There's like a hop. And then from Jeans to Paul's, there's a jump. And then from Paul's to Ace's, there's a leap. Doesn't make Paul's solo album bad at all. Nothing compares to Ace's 1978 solo album. And
you gotta give this just due. It's a great album. One of my favorite albums of all time, actually.
And we're gonna get into the reasons why and our opinions on the reasons why. And I think there are very good, very legitimate reasons why Ace's solo album is the best. Well, maybe we're not any more of KISS geeks than anybody else, and maybe other people stay up at night thinking about this. But I have stayed up more than one night thinking about this, especially for this episode, and I think I've come up with some really good reasons why. Nonetheless, Paul's got a great solo album, and it was a fun episode to record. You know, it was nice. It was nice to do it, and we only really shit-talked one song, and that was actually nice to do.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun to not shit-talk a KISS member. There's no possible way to go through Peter's album without shit-talking the hell out of it. And for that matter, Gene's also. So I'm pretty sure there will be no shit talking this week on the Hooligan Nation. Do you have any news?
I do. And for the Ace Frehley fans out there, you probably already know that Ace is on tour right now. So my news is all consisting being that we're doing Ace solo album on his current tour that he's on. So he has 7 dates. He just played November 16th. He's going to go all the way to April 11th. So the next one that's available to go to see, he's in Michigan at the Togan Lounge in Westland, Michigan. That's on December 27th. December 29th, he's at Soaring Eagle Casino, Mount Pleasant, Michigan. the Tracy Performing Arts Center in Middletown, Florida on February 21st. That's in Florida. He's again in Florida at the casino in Dania Beach, Florida. That's the 22nd of February. He's in Belturo Resort Casino in Florence, Indiana on March 8th. And then he finishes up his tour in Newton Performing Arts Center in Newton, North Carolina on April 11th. And then the last bit of news with Ace, it's the 15th anniversary of Frehley's third solo album, 2017 Anomaly. It's being celebrated with a limited edition neon green Cornetto vinyl. There's going to only be 800 copies, so it'll be a collectible. And it'll be available worldwide, but only going to be making 800 copies. So that's all I got for news.
I just want to add to that. I know I've seen it all over the place. Ace is adding tour dates almost daily. So that list is not a complete list of tour dates. He's got Starland Ballroom in New Jersey. I think it's in March.
Oh, cool.
And he's got somewhere else in the area. We both live in New Jersey, in case anybody hasn't picked up on that yet. So I think it's in Patchogue, which is Long Island.
Well, he probably it's on the website where I got the information. So he probably those dates are probably hopefully updated on there too now. And you've seen him pretty recent. He's still killing it on stage, right?
The last time I saw Ace was like 2017, 2018. It was at the last KISS Expo that I know of. You know, it used to be the New York, New Jersey KISS Expo. And this one was the New Jersey KISS Expo. And it was in Parsippany, New Jersey. And the reason that I went, and the cool thing about that expo was Ace was not only appearing there, but he did a concert. And look, this was not a perfect scenario, so I'm not going to get into. And if you were there and you have any issues with the things, just keep them to yourself, because they did the best they could at the expo. But they tried to make a stage in a ballroom. The sound was good because it was a really small space. But it was a little trying to try to make a stage in a ballroom, and the drums weren't on risers, and there was lots of little things. But the really cool thing was he played the 1978 solo album. This one, the one we're reviewing, from start to finish in order, and he was in 2018. He was really good. It was very cool to listen to that entire record live in order. I guess that's one of those goofy things that I kind of like, just like, what was it, a couple episodes ago, seeing Wasp and seeing their first record all in order, all live. Very cool. He was good then. Like, it was at least 6 years ago. So, and look, I like Ace's new record. Ace's new record to me is probably his best solo record since Trouble Walking, probably. So it's been
something volts or something like that. How many?
10,000 volts.
10,000 volts. That's right.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Did a lot of videos. I think he did 3 videos. Did a lot of promotion for it. Like, really, really was on point with this record. Maybe the most ever. I'm overusing this word with these solo albums, but Ace, at least over the last year and a half, seemed very organized, very businesslike. He had some help
Yeah, being sober will do that for you, right?
Yeah, but he's been sober for like 20 years. It just seems like he's got a renewed interest in what he's doing.
Well, I get the impression relationship with Gene and Ace has never been completely fractured. Like they out of all those guys, it seems like Gene and Ace seem to still kind of have a decent relationship somewhat.
Yes. I don't actually I'll go farther than that. Every time Ace says anything about Gene, he ends it by saying, Gene knows I love him. Gene knows I'm fooling with him. And it seems the same thing with Gene. And that's a big difference with Paul and Ace,
I heard
especially after look what and I don't want to get into a big thing and I don't want to go on for days, but if there's one time that Paul stepped over the line that he never should have done it is the last time that Kiss went on Howard Stern and Howard Stern asked about Ace and Peter.
yeah, I know where
And
you're going.
Paul made the comment that to have them in the band, we would have to change the name from Kiss to Piss.
Yeah, it's just wrong.
Now, look, man, even if that's the truth, and it's clearly not the truth with Ace, it's clearly not. Like, Ace can still play, and Ace ain't singing the backing tracks. And I don't want to go any farther than that.
Right. Well, the only thing I'll add,
But even if he couldn't, and even if Peter Chris can't play the drums anymore, and hey, look, there's nothing wrong with Peter not being able to play the drums anymore. He's like 78 years old.
right?
But even if he couldn't play the drums, there's no need for that. There was no need for that statement. You could have just ended it and said, hey, we moved on. Hey, we like Eric and Tommy being a band.
Right.
Like Paul Stanley and Gene
Necessary.
Simmons both earned the right that Kiss is theirs. And yes, both Peter and Ace have said things about Paul and Gene that they shouldn't have. They've done things. They've self-sabotaged themselves. Yes, they're drunks and drug addicts or were. Yes, 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 and all of that. But still, there's got to be a line that doesn't get crossed. You brought it up a couple episodes ago. What happens in the locker room stays in the locker room. And look, I can understand Peter Chris throws a rock. Paul Stanley feels the need to throw a boulder back. Ace Frehley throws a boulder. Paul Stanley feels the need to throw a grenade. I understand all of that. Not to that level.
Absolutely. I agree.
Not to that level to me.
So in a way, he's kind of shitting on himself saying something like that. Like that, again, it's between the four of them, but there's some of the stuff that goes on is so childish. It's like, give me a break, you know?
I believe that Paul lost quite a bit of credibility to quite a bit of Kiss fans. Whether it's temporarily or forever or not, when it comes to Peter and Ace, as far as I'm concerned, Paul's credibility is shot because he had to stoop to a level that's beneath him. He didn't
Well,
need to do that.
the other thing too, like I don't know if you've heard the same. I've heard Gene in interviews, and then we can move on. But I've heard Gene in interviews, like kind of like almost like feeling like he should have been more of a protector to Ace and Peter, but he was too interested in getting tail. But he said that there was some certain times where he felt like he could have kind of tried to rein them in more and be more of a, I don't know, more of a mentor. I've heard him say it, something like
I've
that.
I've heard him say it too. I don't think anything would have helped them to or changed anything. It was just destined to be what it was. 99.9% of us as fans don't know shit about what we're talking about. Nothing. We listen to the interviews.
Right.
You could be the craziest, most dedicated Kiss fan. 99.9% of us weren't there. I can't fact check the credibility of the people that speak out today or have spoke out, that tell stories. The only people that know for sure are the four guys in the band. And you're going to get, most of the time, four different versions of what they believe is the truth. Look, this is our opinion with the information that we have.
Right.
Look, am I 99% sure just by everything that I've heard and watched and listened to that Peter Criss continued to sabotage himself all the way up past 2004? Listen to Peter Criss's last solo album, man. If that ain't sabotaging yourself, I don't know what is.
One of the things that as bands always get compared to is it's like a marriage, and you never fully know what's going on. The only people who fully know in a marriage is the two people. But at the same time, if you're having a fight out in public, you're going to know that something's going on. So that's kind of the same thing. Like they let a lot of the dirty laundry spill out. So, you know, I say this the comment where there's smoke, there's fire a lot. So, it's no secret that Peter tried to quit the band like about 12 to 15 times through the time that they were together.
Do you have any music we're listening to?
Yeah, this is I dove back as a guitar player. I'm always trying to learn stuff. Always going to be wanting to learn something I don't know. And I've always loved the band Fastway. Incredible riffs from Fast Eddie Clarke. So I'm trying to learn. There's two songs that I'm actually working on. And Tell Me What You Want is like one of my favorites that they do. I've always liked the riffs, and the whole album. That her whole first Fastway album is really good. And there's been other songs from other albums, but that whole album is a song that I like all of it. And if you've never listened to Fastway, I definitely recommend it, especially if you like a good guitar riffs.
All right, so my music we're listening to, I stayed with an Ace theme, and I stayed with an Ace theme. I may be the only tart out there, but I stayed with the Ace thing because a couple years ago, I was listening to Eddie Trunk. Yes, you hear that from me often on this, that I listen to Eddie Trunk often. Almost every day. Eddie Trunk was talking to somebody, I don't remember who, and they were talking about Ace Frehley. Whoever he was talking to brought up this Ace Frehley song, Too Young to Die. I'd never heard of it. The first thing that popped in my head is I never heard that Ace song. What album did that come off of? And I got lucky. They talked about it for a little while, and somebody brought up that it was on Trouble Walking. And I'm sure I had heard it before, but I had never really listened to it. And in my defense, after second sighting, a lot of us kind of checked out a little bit of Ace. They were talking about the drum beat. They were talking about the fact that it's a song that Richie Scarlett is vocaling on. Richie Scarlett sings the song, and I like Richie Scarlett. If you guys haven't heard it, is Too Young to Die.
Just saved it.
It's off of Trouble Walking, which, by the way, came out in 1989, is a very good Ace Frehley album. So if, like many of us, the Frehley's Comet album came out and you were all in like I was, and then Second Sighting came out and you said, what the hell is this? Like I did. He came back with Trouble Walking. It was changed. It was no longer Frehley's Comet. It was now billed as Ace Frehley. So a lot of people, Trouble Walking, I don't think gets the credit that it should get. And in my opinion, the best song on the record is Too Young to Die, which, funny enough, Ace doesn't even sing on. Look, they play banging guitar. Anton Fig plays drums. It is the most incredible drum beat to me. That song, I love that song. I can't get enough of that song. I've been on that song for probably 2 years now. There's other good songs on the album, Shop Full of Rock. Of course, his version of Hide Your Heart, which, if you don't know, which just makes me giggle. If you don't know, KISS released Hide Your Heart. Ace released Hide Your Heart. But Ace got that shit out before KISS did.
Hot in the Shade, though, right? With Kiss, right?
Hot in the Shade. I believe it's Hot in the Shade with KISS. There's a there's a couple. Fractured 3 is on here, which all the Fractured Mirrors instrumentals I think are good. Too Young to Die is definitely my favorite. So if you're a KISS fan, if you're an Ace fan, and you haven't heard Trouble Walking, or you haven't heard it in 30 years,
I haven't.
you don't remember it, start with Too Young to Die.
Well, you pretty much described me because I didn't listen to Trouble Walking. The next album, you kind of pretty much described me. So I'm going to definitely listen to that album and listen to that song.
I think a lot of people check that. Well, everybody knows that Second Sighting was the Todd Howarth solo album. Like it's a known thing. Ace had fallen off the wagon, wasn't that interested, wasn't that involved. Eddie Trunk tells stories they couldn't get Ace motivated, and that's been Ace himself admits that he has motivational problems. He works when he wants to work, and when he doesn't want to work, he doesn't work. That's the rock star in him, I guess, and that's also the difference between him and Paul and Gene.
Well, what did he say? The one week we were talking, like, what if they were all motivated the same way? What kind of, how the band was incredible the way it was. How big would they've gotten if they were all driven the same way, which is not practical.
They had ego problems as it was. If they were all driven the same way, they would have had even more ego problems.
Yeah, it's true.
So, but that's what I got for music I'm listening to. If you haven't checked that out or you don't remember it, recheck it out.
Cool.
Hey, KISS Army, we work hard on this podcast and try to give you the best content possible. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. Also, the podcast is now on all the podcast platforms, so please like and follow us there and give us some 5-star reviews. It really helps us out.
And while you're there, let us know if there's any KISS-related subjects you would like us to cover in the future episodes, and helps us build the hooligan community.
What do you say we get into the legendary 1978 solo album by the Spaceman himself, the best guitar player that ever played in KISS, the best.
In your opinion?
Ace's 1978 solo album was released on September 18th, 1978, just like everybody else's. It was recorded between June and July 1978, which is kind of interesting because I believe it's the shortest recording time of all the 4 solo albums, if I remember correctly. It was recorded at the Mansion in Connecticut, which I believe is Ace Frehley's home, or was. Plaza Sound Studios in New York City. It was 36 minutes and 44 seconds long in length, released by Casablanca Records, and produced by the Godfather, Eddie Kramer. You just have to do that every time.
He deserves it.
He does deserve it. We'll get into that another time, but he's the Godfather. He's the Godfather of KISS production.
I think he'd probably like that if he heard that.
He's the Godfather of Ace Frehley production. That's absolutely for sure. One single was released from this album, the best song on the record, New York Groove. Ace got that right also. Of course, blah, blah, blah. It was shipped platinum, so it's a platinum record, but I actually think this might have actually legitimately sold platinum. And if it didn't, it should have. Now we get to the best part. The cover art was by Araldo Caragatti. Once again, for the 4th and final time, Araldo does a hell of a job.
He does.
I think all the covers to these solo albums were great, and that's it. So, I guess in the words of Ace Frehley, hit it, Curly!
Rip it out. Rip It Out was written by Ace, Larry Kelly, Sue Kelly. High energy, great vocals, killer rhythms, um, great solo and drums and guitar, great blend. I love the song.
Is there a better word than great?
Stupendous.
Stupendous? Okay. Stupendous, amazing. It is a stupendous song. And the one thing that you didn't say, it is a great album opener.
Yeah.
Great album opener. Like when you put that on and that hits, it's time to put your seatbelt on because you're about to go on a ride.
Is Hattie's opening on stage when you've seen him before? Like that is a good opening song, period. Great for that'd be good live too.
You know, I believe that he has opened to that.
All right. So now we got Speeding Back to My Baby. Ace and Jeanette Frehley are on that song. I got awesome guitar solo intro, awesome groove, great vocal harmony. I'm going to say the word awesome an awful lot when I describe these songs. So yeah, I really, really dig that song. And it's him and his wife.
Yeah, I do too. And I got to tell you, I knew she sang backup on this. And if Gene ever listens to this podcast, he may not like this, but she got damn good backing vocals on this song. It's better than all his celebrity backing vocalists on Gene's solo
I just wonder where
album.
you're going with that. Even Cher.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, if you listen to it, she rips into them backing vocals and it's really good. Like she sounds like she could sing.
Yeah, oh yeah. There's no doubt.
It's a great song.
Hey, you can
Great
see
song.
you can see why he did a song with her because it was really good.
Great song. Love the song. Love everything about the song.
Yeah, me too. I totally agree. The next song is Snowblind. This is all Ace. Cool rhythm. The vocals throughout are especially a nice blend with the chorus. What I like about, and I'm gonna do an overview, but every song's different too. Like he's got a nice flavor on every song. It's not like it's carbon copy. You know, he's got a little different flavor of every one of his songs. But I really like Snowblind. It's a good tune.
Yeah. Look, before we go any farther, there are no bad songs on this record. I love every song on
Same
this
here.
record. So yes, I agree with you. Snowblind's a great song.
But I like how they're all different, right? Like that's another thing that makes the album great. Like they all have their different flow or different vibe to them.
Yeah, well, I think that's a couple things. So I think,
The Godfather.
well, I think, look, I kind of teased this last week in the Paul episode. Ace was smart enough, at least I like to think Ace was smart enough to know that he needed supervision, that he needed, and not supervision like that, but he needed someone to bounce ideas off of.
Absolutely.
Unlike pretty much the other three guys' records, there's really no celebrity guests on this record. There wasn't even a band. It's mostly Ace, Anton Fig, and Eddie Kramer. And historically, Eddie Kramer is a key ingredient, in my opinion, to Ace being successful.
That's undeniable.
Look, Eddie Kramer ain't writing the songs. Eddie Kramer isn't playing the guitar. Eddie Kramer isn't singing. I don't want to give Eddie Kramer more credit than he should get, and I'm not trying to take any credit away from Ace Frehley at all. But when you put Eddie Kramer and Ace Frehley in the same room, historically speaking, magic happens.
He brings out the best in Ace.
He absolutely does. And this is very, very obvious to me on this record.
Absolutely.
So, I think Ace flourished on his own, but Eddie Kramer helped the flourishing. At least that's the way I want to see it, or I believe it happened. So, and you go, I mean, it's really 1 through 8. The 9th song is an instrumental, not taking away from Fractured Mirror, but there's 8 songs on this record, and there isn't a bad one on here.
Absolutely. The next song is one of my favorites on it. It's got a nice, cool guitar groove, cool vocals at the same time that blend in very nicely with it. I like this. It's like, I'm the kind of guy. It grabs you. This song is a song that grabs you. It's a really, really, like I said, it's one of my favorites on it.
And not to harp on this too much, but I will anyway. Peter tried to be a lounge act. It didn't work. Gene tried to be a Beatle. It didn't work. Paul was a rock star, and it worked.
Mhm.
And Ace tried to be Ace, and it worked the best.
Well said.
Ace was just Ace. Wasn't trying to be anything he wasn't. Wasn't trying to do anything he wasn't capable of doing. He did what Ace does, and it worked the best out of all of them.
Yeah, it was like the other word I get for this whole album too, and Eddie Kramer's part of bringing this out. It's raw, like you said, it's Ace through and through, and it's raw and it's rock and roll, and it's such a good album. Like I know that me and you got into a little bit with the whole guitar, who's better, Bruce and Ace. Listen, I love both these guys, and Ace on this album, it's not my favorite Kiss solo album. It's one of my favorite albums, period, all time.
It's very hard for me. I would say probably 10%, if not less, 10% of the time, I listen to an entire record and say, oh, I like the whole record. There's usually, I mean, I got a statement that's getting beaten to death, but it's true of bands other than Kiss. There's at least one stinker on almost every band's records. You pick the greatest bands, whether I'm a fan of them or not, whether, I'm a diehard fan of them or not, whether you pick the Beatles or you pick Led Zeppelin, or you can go Van Halen, AC/DC, Metallica. If we were to break down every one of their records, for me, on most of them, I would find you a song that I just don't like.
Right.
For whatever reason. That's not true on Ace's 1978 solo album. Now, it's true on other Ace solo albums, but the 78 one is just
like I
about
said,
perfection.
It's one of those once in a lifetime albums. It really is.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it truly doesn't get the credit that it really deserves to get.
No, absolutely true. So the next song I got is "What's on Your Mind."
There's
Nice.
so many things on my mind.
Yeah, what's on your mind?
You have no idea. Go ahead.
I probably don't want to know. Well,
you probably don't.
This has great vocals on it. Nice transitions from the bridge into the chorus. Again, these songs, and I'll give Eddie Kramer some more credit again, because the songs arrangements are very layered, very perfect. Remember, I go back to this a lot. Remember Almost Human? How much I love the riff in that song, and how they, in my opinion, screwed that song up, and it could have been so much better. There was no mistakes made on this album, period.
Everything about this record is as close to perfection. It should be as close to perfection for a KISS fan as any, definitely as any solo record, but as any record. This is 100% a KISS record. 100%. Put Gene on bass, put Peter on drums, put Paul playing rhythm guitar, let Ace sing the leads and play lead guitar, stamp KISS on the cover, and this is a banging multi-platinum KISS record. And don't forget the Godfather producing.
I got another take for you that may make you fall off your chair, but you're going to love it. Is this what happens when Ace is motivated?
Yes, I think this is what happens when Ace is motivated. Yes, I look, as funny as that is, I really feel like, and I don't know that this happened, but I can envision them sitting down in some meeting room with suits like Neil Bogart and Bill Aucoin and saying, hey, let's do solo albums. And I can see the four of them walking out and Peter saying, I finally get to be who I want to be, the star that I am. And Gene walking out and with a notepad and a pen and starting to write all the actresses and female singers that he's betted that he can get to come play on the record, and all his friends, and Paul saying, well, I'm the star of this band, so I'm just going to go be a star. And Ace walking out of there and saying, I'm going to show them. I'm going to show them. And he absolutely did show them.
Ace looked at it like he's the bunny and they're the turtle, and he's going to leave him in the dust, and he definitely did.
As the cartoon goes, it was the tortoise and the hare, but we can go with the bunny.
I was
and the
hoping you would have
turtle.
missed that part. I realized it.
Nope. I don't miss things like that. Nope. Well,
Okay, Curly.
we can move on now.
You want to go to the next one? All right.
Oh, we can go to the next one all day long.
It's the number one song on the album. This song gets played everywhere still. That song will come on and be like, wow, New York Groove. Like, that's a song that you hear everywhere. Super popular song. Russ Ballard is the one that wrote it with him. Everybody knows it's got a great catchy tune, great chorus, a very well put together song, New York Groove.
Yeah, the coolest thing about New York Groove is 4 or 5 years ago, they came back from a commercial in the Super Bowl, and New York Groove was playing in the background. You cannot go to a New York Yankees game without them playing New York Groove. It is a timeless classic.
Absolutely.
In every way. It is, although it's not an Ace song, it's a cover song. But it was meant for Ace. It was meant for Ace's vocals.
Yeah, I don't think that's arguable, man. Like I said, that song is played everywhere.
It's a great song. It was in the set list.
I mean, as far as
long as Ace was in the band, it was in the set list as far as I know. It's a great song live. It's a very different song live, but it's a great song live also.
Like legendary songs of members in the band. Peter had Beth and he had New York Groove. And I mean, I like New York Groove a lot. It's not my favorite of his, but I like it a lot. But as far as legendary songs that hit all kinds of people and just was a complete commercial success, it's undeniable.
You could say that Rock and Roll All Night is KISS's most famous song. Now, as far as numbers goes, Spotify will tell you that it was I Was Made for Loving You. But it's probably, I think every Kiss fan would tell you, would tell you that their most popular song is Rock and Roll All Night. But I think most of us would also tell you that we're tired of hearing it.
Oh, absolutely.
If I'm not at a Kiss show, I don't want to hear Rock and Roll All Night unless you can give me a version of it that I haven't heard yet.
Right.
New York Groove, I can't get enough of it. And it's how many years later? It's almost 50 years later. It's a timeless, legendary song. Like, pick a band. I'm not trying to make Ace Led Zeppelin, but it's Ace's Stairway to Heaven. So, it's a song that I have been known to play 2 or 3 times driving when I put on a playlist of Ace songs or Kiss songs. Yeah, instead of hitting the skip, I hit the replay and listen to it 2 or 3 times. That,
Yeah.
to me, that says a lot for a song.
Okay, not
To
to
me,
get
it
too
does.
side. No, I'm with you there, and not to get too sidebarred, but like for a band that supposedly was all about the fluff and all the other stuff, they have some songs that are songs that you can't help but like too, like New York Groove. Peter Chris's "A Hard Luck Woman," like I was telling you before. "Hard Luck Woman" is a song that I've never heard anybody not like it. There's, you know, I'm going on my thing because people like throwing shade about Kiss. Well, they put on makeup and they're a circus act. No, their music was good. Period.
Hey, man, when Ace made this solo album, I'm pretty sure he wasn't wearing makeup in the studio. Okay, so that
Right.
that that has never floated with me. It never will float with me.
No, I know, but it's one of those things that you never forget about being said. And when you have valid things pop up, you want to make those points because, I mean, they can say what the hell they want. Band doesn't last and doesn't have sustainability if they don't have music to back up the circus act.
I'm on the record as saying I think Kiss would have been bigger without the makeup and without everything else because people wouldn't have had excuses to talk shit about them. They would have been on a level playing ground with Led Zeppelin, with Aerosmith. It just gave people built in excuses to say, oh, they can't do this without the makeup. It's a sideshow. It's this, it's that.
Well, I
Number
mean,
one, there ain't no sideshow in Ace's solo album. There ain't no fluff. There ain't nothing. It's what I said about Eddie Kramer, or I think it was Rock and Roll Over. It was plug in and blow your mind. Kiss lives on to this day. In how many Led Zeppelin podcasts do you think there are out there? How many Elvis Presley podcasts are out there? Shit, I'll go one farther. How many Bon Jovi podcasts? How many Metallica podcasts? I don't have the answer to these, but I can tell you that
how many bands have an army?
you could probably fill an arena with how many people like us do a Kiss podcast weekly.
Mm.
Like, these guys are in their middle to late 70s, so their fan base is in their, for the most part, are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. And it's as much of an army today as it was in 1976. How many bands can say that? How many bands that are considered the top of the mountain have the backing and the fan base that Kiss does in retirement, to where people like us are spending their time talking about them, and people like you people out there are spending your time listening to it and watching it. Who wants to watch or listen to a podcast about Led Zeppelin? And I know there's a lot of Kiss fans that are Rush fans. I don't have any issue with Rush, but how many Rush podcasts are out there? They're just not. Kiss is different. Kiss is different. It should be the Kiss and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Thank you. There's my drop the mic segment. You can move on now. I'm done.
Okay. You want to go on to the next song?
Yeah, why not?
I'm in Need of Love. Written by Ace. And performed by Ace. What do I got for that?
I'm in need of a lot of things.
Yeah, you and me both. It's there's strong pauses and accents, cool vocals, unique Ace guitar solo, vocally and guitar pace together blend perfectly. Again, the chef is cooking, man. The chef is cooking. Everything is arranged perfectly here. Yeah, it's another one of my favorites.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't. Great song. Another great song off a great album. There's nothing more that I can add to it to make it any more descriptive or better than its perfection.
Which brings you now to Wiped Out. And what I really like about this song is the drum intro. It's got such a really unique, cool drum intro. It's actually, it sounds like the Beach Boys.
I think it was meant to.
It was meant, yeah. It definitely has a twist on that. And again, it's one of the things that I like about this album is you're not listening to a lot of similarities. Every song stands on its own.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I got for Wiped Out.
Anton Fig does a great job on this record. Does a great job on this song. This is just another great Ace Frehley song. He's not on his own. Anton Fig, Eddie Kramer, they have their part in this. They got to get credit in this, but
Absolutely.
this was a very determined, very motivated Ace Frehley.
I think he was motivated and he had the drive to make sure that all the T's were crossed and all the I's were dotted with collectively, not just his own. It had to be. Had to be.
Had to be. I agree. You know, it's unfortunate that I don't. It 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 it's hard to add anything to these songs because you got it perfect. You got it perfect like 100% of the time, and it is as close to perfect as I think possible. If anybody can come up with a better record than this, well, I'd love to hear it. I'd love
Hey, listen,
somebody
and
let me know.
listen, we both are huge music listeners in every genre, and it's very, very much a tough thing to hit like one of my all-time albums to where you get in like my top five. And like I said, for one of the solo albums to be in my top five is really hard to break. But this album is right there with Operation Mindcrime. I know you're not a big Queensryche fan, but like, again, it's they definitely put a lot of care into making sure that they were not putting this out in the presses till every song was exactly the way it needed to be.
And quickly, he recorded this in June and July. So you know, it's not like he spent a year.
Well, how many of these songs do you think he had brewing behind the scenes while the turmoil was going on?
I don't know.
That's a good question.
It is a good question. But you said something earlier about hitting. And that to me is the best thing to say about this. He had 9 chances to hit home runs. He hit 9 home runs. In my opinion, he hit 9 home runs. Look, they're not all equal. I could put them in an order.
Right.
My most favorite to my least favorite. but my least favorite song on this record is still a home run.
Yeah, and you know what? I kind of like how he finishes it with Fractured Mirror and the nice acoustic ending to kind of put a bow at the end of it. Again, there's nothing I can say bad about the album at all.
Nope, nothing. I do not usually like instrumentals. Fractured 1, 2, Fractured for sure. Fractured 1 and 2 are just as good as any songs with lyrics, as far as I'm concerned.
I
It's
remember
just
Fractured 2.
another home run.
I don't remember enough, but Fractured 2, like, I mean, the thing about Fractured 2, like, and I say this, fellow guitar players, you'll know 100% what I'm talking about. Like, and you know, from music wise, like a good guitar player, like David Gilmour is one of my favorite all time guitar players from Pink Floyd, because he's not playing a million miles an hour, but he's taking you on a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And Ace's acoustic, blend on Fractured, on all the Fractured, he takes you on a journey, and it's very pleasant to listen to.
Ace is one of those guitar players that can tell you a story with his guitar. And it's what separates him. It's definitely what separates him from Vinny. It's what separates him from Tommy. It's what separates him from Mark St. John. And it is, and I think Bruce Kulick would say this, it's what separates him from Bruce Kulick. Bruce Kulick is a very good technical guitar player. He can't tell me a story with his guitar, and Ace Frehley can tell me a story with his guitar. And there's other people, Randy Rhoads, Eddie Van Halen, Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, David Gilmour, I'm right there with you, can tell you a story with their guitar. And I'm sure there is more. But Ace is in a small group that can tell you a story with his guitar and makes his guitar sing. It's like added lyric to a song. And that to me separates great from very good. To me.
No, I listen. My when we had some little fun going back and forth about Bruce and Ace. Like I said, I love them both. They both bring something different to the table. And Bruce plays as close to Ace out of all the guitar players they've had.
Absolutely.
But
and also one of the important things that we never bring up is Ace was a member of KISS. Bruce was an employee of KISS. Now, I don't know if that makes any difference, but, and I could be completely wrong for this, but I don't know that Paul and Gene had the power to go in and tell Ace, no, I don't like that solo, do it differently. Look, to wrap this up into a nice, neat Christmas present, which every time I listen to this record, it's a Christmas present to me. This is Ace's perfection. This is Ace's coming out party. This is Ace showing he's as much of a star as Gene and Paul is, in my opinion. He's helped by great production by Eddie Kramer, but that's not meant to be a crutch. That just means that he was a little smarter than Gene and Paul, and he went out and got himself a professional producer where they chose to, they co-produce both of them, but you know that they're producing those records.
Right.
And although I believe Ace gets a co-produce, he does. He gets a co-produce on this record. I don't know any of this, but I just imagine Ace listened to Eddie Kramer more than Gene listened to Sean Delaney, more than Paul listened to Jeff Glicksman, maybe.
Eddie Glickman is.
And for that matter, I don't know how much cocaine was ingested during Peter's recording. I don't know. Vinny Poncia if you're listening to this, I'm not accusing you of being a cokehead, but if you weren't, you are an absentee producer. Eddie Kramer does a fantastic job, and Ace Frehley does a fantastic job of creating as close to perfection as anything that's ever been stamped with the KISS logo. And this is the closest thing to a KISS album. And if this was a KISS album, this might have been one of the best selling KISS albums, one of the most popular KISS albums. It is universally known, especially around podcasts, that the Ace fans are the most rabid of the fan base. If you say anything wrong about Ace, they're going to fight to the death. And I think a lot of that comes from this album. This was the most important of the solo albums, I think, to the artist. I think Ace had the most to prove. I think Peter's ego and his drug addiction and his personality issues probably got in the way of his solo album. I think Ace put that all aside and had something very important to prove, and he absolutely proved it 100%.
Well, that's when you brought this up before. You may have even said it on this podcast here today. You get that kind of success, and if you're Ace, how do you ever lose that Eddie Kramer connection?
I've heard lots of stories out there that Ace went away from Eddie Kramer because he tried to save money, because the first Frehley's Comet album did not sell as much as they wanted it to. Look, my personal opinion is they should have just kept going back to the drawing board with Eddie Kramer, but that's not the way record companies work. Megaforce was never a huge multi-billion-dollar record company, so crunching numbers had to be part of the gig. So it's unfortunate in some ways, but we got really good music out of Ace Frehley. We got really good music out of Kiss and Eddie Kramer. And he's not the only producer we got really good music out of. Shit, Michael James Jackson does not get the credit that he deserved for the records that he produced. And Bob Ezrin has Destroyer and Revenge. We won't talk about Elder. So he's not the only one, but when you mix Ace Frehley and Eddie Kramer together and you throw in Anton Fig, you get magic. And I don't think anybody can argue with that fact. But if you can argue with it, drop it in the comments below, because I would love to hear the argument. You got anything else?
No, I'm good. I'm looking forward to actually listening to a little bit of this album once we get finished. I'm going to have some dinner, and then I may go for a cruise and listen to this.
All right, cool. As a bonus, because this is the last of the 4 original 1978 solo records, we have not pre-organized this list, and we are going to try to organize this list in the order that they should go on the album. We're going to take a few minutes. I'll edit it out so you don't watch us sit here writing. And we're going to write out what we think is the best songs from the 4 of these solo albums. And we're going to put a KISS album together. And the rules of this, and these are my own rules, and they're my own rules because I know me. Every band member has to be represented at least once. And if not, we might have just taken Ace's album and listed it 1 through 9. We're going to do 10 songs. 10 songs.
That's not going to be easy.
Oh, yeah. Watch this.
We're going to do this organically, or you want me to tell you that before we do recording?
We're going to do this organically. I love this organic shit with you. Really
Organic. What's another word for organic? We're going to do it just kind of like from the seat of our pants, or we're going to actually script it before we get on?
No, we're going to do it from the seat of our pants, I think. I have been thinking about this for a couple weeks now, and when I actually wrote it out, it was a little more even than I expected it to be, because I thought of it as a complete record, as a complete
I'm
KISS
making
record.
a playlist out of this. I'm going to make it a playlist.
Yeah, I think so. So with that being said, the magic of editing, we're back. What we did was we put them, we did separate lists. We don't know what each other's lists are. We listed them as we thought they should be listed on a KISS record. So in other words, for anybody that's not smart enough to follow me, and I'm sure you're out there, if KISS would have skipped the solo albums and made one great KISS album, which has been talked about countless times, which solo album songs would be on it and where would they be located? Do you want me to go first or you to go first?
It doesn't matter. You can go first.
All right. So my number 1 is Rip It Out.
Ooh, mine's different. Mine's New York Groove.
Okay. I think Rip It Out is as good of a album opener as I Stole Your Love is a show opener, or Detroit Rock City is a show opener. I think it's a great song to start out with.
I love the song, and it should be on my list, but it's not on the list. Number 2, I got Tonight You Belong to Me.
Okay, number 2, I have Radioactive.
Okay.
I don't. There really is no reason for that other than I want to rock a little bit before I start getting into slower, more loving things.
I didn't even put that kind of thought into it. I just tried to find the good songs that I like and try to make sure everybody was represented.
I'll start number 3. Paul, Love in Chains.
Okay. All right. I got I'm in Need of Love, Ace.
It was a little more shocking than I thought it was going to be.
All right. So my 4th is Love in Chains from Paul.
Okay, so it's my 3rd and your 4th. My 4th is New York Groove.
All right. My 5th is Wiped Out.
Wow. My 5th is Tonight You Belong to Me.
Okay. So my 6th is It's All Right from Paul.
My 6th is Man of a Thousand Faces. It's my Beatle moment.
7, I have Speeding Back to My Baby.
My 7th is Snowblind.
So we're on number 8. I got Take Me Away Together as One, Paul.
You got the Fluff song?
It's not the Fluff song. I like that song. That's the acoustic.
Oh, okay.
Hey, I'm an acoustic player before electric anyway, so that's why
Right.
that song kind of fond of. I told you, I think that song would be a hit today. A few little changes.
My 8th is Gene, Burning Up with Fever.
Oh. Burning Up with Fever. I'm burning up with something there.
Probably from the chlamydia.
All right. So what are we on now? Number 9?
We are on number 9.
Number 9, I have to have Radioactive on there.
I agree. Number 9, I have Paul, It's All Right.
All right, so we are coming down to number 10.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's your number 10?
I Can't Stop the Rain.
We definitely have different lists. I think the only song I like on that album still is "You Matter to Me" for the most part. So that's my number 10.
Like we said when we did Peter's solo album, to me, "You Matter to Me" was never getting on a Kiss record. The other three of them would have been like, dude, you gotta stop with the cocaine. Like,
When you put in perspective on a Kiss album, you've got makes sense. But like, it's a song that I actually enjoy, but it's not really a Kiss song.
right. I Can't Stop the Rain. I could picture that being on a Kiss record, where we give Peter the ballad. So that's what it is. So just to sum it up for everybody that's still here, my list: Rip It Out, Radioactive, Love in Chains, New York Groove, Tonight You Belong to Me, Man of a Thousand Faces, Snowblind, Burning Up with Fever, It's All Right, and I Can't Stop the Rain.
All right, and my list was: 1 was New York Groove, Tonight You Belong to Me from Paul, I'm in Need of Love, Ace, Love in Chains, Paul. Number 5, Wiped Out with Ace. Number 6, It's All Right from Paul. Number 7, Speeding Back to My Baby with Ace. Number 8, Take Me Away Together as One, Paul. Number 9, Radioactive, Gene. And number 10, You Matter to Me from Peter.
And if you guys are listening or watching this and you want to get involved in this, if you're watching on YouTube, drop it in the comments below, your list. 10 songs in the order that you think they should be in. Every solo album, every 1978 solo album has to be represented at least once. If you're listening from a podcast platform, go to our Facebook group. It is Hooligan Nation, a KISS-Centric podcast. It's an open group. You can join it and put a post on there. Same thing, song list. You only get 10 songs. Don't put a bonus in because I want to put Speeding Back to My Baby as my bonus 11, and I didn't.
Yeah, definitely participate either in the comments or on Facebook because it'll be kind of fun to get everybody's different perspective and take on that and actually see everybody's different lists.
To my brother Mike, we want to see your list. If you must text it to me, I will read it on air, but we'd much rather see it in the comments below or on the Facebook group. I'm very interested to see what his list would be. I think I'm more interested to see what his list would be than probably yours, or for that matter, anybody else that I know. I think his list would be extremely interesting. And
Yeah, I it'd be fun. That's part of the fun of this too.
pretty sure we gave him a lot of airtime today. Maybe not in this episode as much, but today we gave him
And
a lot
listen,
of
if
airtime.
you don't want to do it in the comments and you don't want to do it in a group, you can actually, the next time we film, you can wait till then. You can bring your list on there if you want. But we definitely want you to. We want your list.
You got called out in 2 different episodes, I believe. Just calling him out. Wow. It's almost like we planned to call him out a couple times.
Hey, come on! You know you're a fellow hooligan. Come on.
Come on. Just want to remind you guys that this is the last of the 1978 solo albums. So I am going to got to practice. I am going to put a playlist up with all
That way. That's the way. If you're pointing to me, that's the way you got to point.
I'm going to put a playlist up with all the 1978 solo albums. So if you guys want to get a complete take on all of them, it'll be right here. Well, with all that being said, to the millions and millions and millions of people out there listening in podcast land, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on wherever the hell else we are. I'm pretty sure that today could be defined as this. We got up and got our grandma out of here. Get up and get your grandma out of here.
Oh, wow. That hit me in the back of the head.
With all that being said, don't ever forget, kids. If it's too loud, you're too old. Peace out.